right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday, middle of the week, and you know what everybody says. It's kind of the slower day. Oh, it's only the middle of the week. Well, what are we going to do to kind of get you that good feel? On today's program, Ryan Shin from Sun Life Financial will shed some light on investments and savings, the gist of everything we've learned with him on the program, and he's going to bring it to us in that rock and roll Ryan style, full of energy. And marathon runner Chris Nikik and Adidas are revolutionizing running for people in the Down syndrome community. Jennie Bovard, she's excited to share this with us and tell us all about it. So folks, get ready because we are off and running with today's show.
This is Kelly and Company.
Always have fun to be here with you, ladies and gentlemen. It's a blessing and a joy always to get into the many conversations we do on the show. Kelly MacDonald here with Nazreen Abdul-Majid joining me on the program as well. Niz, how's today?
Oh, pretty good. And usually Wednesdays are hump days, but not today, sir. Not today. When it's a special day here at AMI, obviously. If you're wondering...
Really?
We are sending the biggest wishes to the kindest, the sweetest, the cutest, not only an OG here at AMI, but one of my very good friends. And I can honestly say the team, the studio, the whole company wouldn't be the same without you, Ramya. Here's to more laughs, more success, and another year of binge watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We love you. Happy birthday. Mwah.
Where's the cake? We're most interested in the fact
know,
that this show has always
been
anchored by some kind of cake, and anytime there's a celebration of any kind, a birthday, hey man, it's a first. We've reached show 1,000, show 17,000. There's got to be cake. So I'm sure that there's cake lurking around, and the family is taking care over there of making sure Ramya ODs enough on it.
I think AMI, for each birthday, they should send cakes to all the employees for each birthday. I think that should be a thing.
Would you trust AMI?
I think petition it.
Would you trust us to choose the cake?
It's cake. It's
cake.
Yeah,
but would you trust what kind of cake? It might be a cake of soap.
We should decide for ourselves. Take a survey.
Oh, okay. So maybe just a gift certificate to the cakery or something like that.
Yeah, maybe that.
Okay.
Or we can
that might work.
Yeah, they could be like, okay, what do you prefer? Okay, ice cream cake. Boom. It's mailed.
So,
or not mailed.
A friend of mine who went to the blind school with me actually moved to London for a while. I was taking a course at college shortly after we left the school, and him and I would actually, when we remembered, celebrate people who we went to school with birthdays, even if we didn't like the person. It's Fred's birthday. I can't stand Fred. Let's get a Tim Hortons cake. We would still do that stuff, and it was a great laugh for us.
Cake?
Tim
like
Hortons
those slices?
No, back then you could buy a whole cake from Tim Hortons.
No way.
Oh yeah. And this was, what was funny is that was in the day when you could still smoke in Tim Hortons. So everything tasted with a smoky taste. And when they stopped allowing that, all the food tastes differently.
A smoky taste to the cake? That is not a cake.
Cigarette smoking cake. I'm telling you, it was. But we didn't know you were so used to it. You noticed when they stopped allowing smoking in Tim Hortons, and you'd say, "What's wrong with this cake? It doesn't taste right. It tastes off." Because there was no smoke holding it together. It was crazy. Aren't you happy you missed that era?
I'm looking at the Tim Hortons cakes. They look good. And actually, some people do designs of Tim Hortons, and those look so creative.
Do they actually sell full cakes still? Or have they gotten as cheap as... I didn't think so, because that would be,
Timbits and donuts.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought they ended that a long time ago, because I haven't had a Tim Hortons cake in years and years. Well, decades probably. Certainly don't need to be buying a whole cake. But yeah, him and I used to do that and laugh, because we'd buy them even for Jesus, so-and-so's birthday. Oh, that guy was a goof. All right, let's get a cake. And we'd still do it, right? It was craziness. I wonder if our first guest is a fan of cakes.
Yeah, I'm sure she is. Lucia Bellafante is here for our final chat on the show. It's a sad day, but a good day at the same time. We're kind of balancing between two things. And she has an announcement. So Lucia, first of all, let's get the cake discussion out of the way. What's your favorite kind?
strawberry shortcake.
Ooh,
Mm,
it's a
I love
classic.
strawberry
It's a
shortcake.
classic. I love it.
Sorry.
Is it wrong for
Okay.
me to say Lucia seems like a strawberry shortcake person? I don't know why.
No. Oh,
It's a
okay.
classic. Yeah, I think it's good.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't know. It's my
But it
favorite
just-
cake. Simple, but
Yeah.
delicious.
Lucia, it
Yeah,
always
it
reminds
is.
me of summer strawberry shortcake. I think that's that. I don't know. I
Yes.
just always think that with it, and then you think, wonder what this person's
Yeah.
taste is like. You know, for me, it's all chocolate, right? I'm Mr. Chocolate Cake. Always have been. Boring, some would say.
Mm-hmm.
No. How about yourself, Nasreem?
I love ice cream cake. That's my favorite type.
Yes.
But the always love chocolate cake, vanilla cake, the classics. But ice cream cake is my favorite.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So Lucia, let's get to your announcement
Yeah.
because we got a lot going on here. How's it going? What's up?
I know, lots going on. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Such a bittersweet moment today. I'm sad that it's my final episode with you, but that's life, right? It's always full of
Yeah.
changes. So yeah, my announcement is I decided not too long ago, just very recently, that I'm going to officially change my name. So I have sent in an application. So I'm keeping my first name, but I created my own last name. So moving forward, yeah, I will be Lucia River Wild with an E.
Oh
Yeah,
my
so
God. I
yeah,
love it.
it sounds kind of crazy, right? But I just kind of feel it reflects who I've grown into, right?
Mhm.
And you know, as our chapter together is closing on AMI, I really wanted to say, not only share that I was changing my name, but how integral you have all been to me and my choice as well. Because being with you has allowed me to really reflect and grow. And as we reflect and grow, you know, then we change and we evolve. And
Mhm.
so you know, it's about, I think it's not just about changing as an individual, but then also personally. And for me, it's allowed me to really expand my own business. And so I wanted to share that too. So my name change and my website will change to luciariverwild.com. All my social media is in the process of changing. And I like the idea that I now get to incorporate something that's really important to me, not only for individuals, but for family, which is yoga nidra meditations. I don't know if any of you have ever had a yoga nidra meditation.
No.
No,
don't.
but
It's beautiful.
sounds nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And most people that can't meditate like are so surprised by how different that is. So it's about meditation, like soul coaching. I've got creative resources in the free library, completely free, and that's the business end of things. But it's really like the idea of evolution as the birth of something new. So you will all go on to, I'm certain, new and wonderful things. And you know, and I want to bring it back to the idea of sometimes change is not easy. Sometimes we
Right.
feel that change is pushed upon us, right? We're not ready for that change, but maybe something else in our environment has changed, and so it causes us to have to do something different. And that's okay, because really when we think of it, in nature, it's constantly changing. Change is constantly happening. And so, you know, if we allow ourselves to give ourselves permission to be who we are and to evolve, then I think we all live in a much there's the ability to live more connected in life, not only with ourselves and our adults, but then also with our children. And so because we usually talk about parenting, I thought that we could, you know, extend this into parenting as well.
Well,
I know,
you're
what a
going to see
mouthful.
so much change, aren't you, Lucia? In that first 10 years of a child, first 15 years, let's say, I mean, maybe you
Yeah.
give a better number, but you want to talk about ever changing week to week, month to month.
Yes, absolutely, right? There's those physical changes, the emotional changes that a child goes through. But I think that, when we allow ourselves to change and evolve, we're setting an example and modeling for our children so that as they're growing and evolving, it almost, by giving ourselves permission, it gives them permission to be who they are. And so we realize that we're always focused, I find, as a parent, focused on like shaping our children, making sure
Hmm.
that they're okay, that they're prepared, protected, and on track. But what if we slightly shifted that and thought, instead of us needing to shape them, we focus on supporting them, supporting our children. So we don't necessarily, for example, need to walk ahead of them, we walk beside
With
them.
them.
And
Yeah.
we don't have to guide them and be so in angst, but literally we allow them to unfold and we love them unconditionally. And so we think our children are not ours to mold, but ours to nurture. And we trust in their growth and their evolution. And then we're very blessed, really. And we have the joy to witness who they will become.
Hmm.
Wow.
It's interesting
Mhm.
because you also want to learn the lesson that your parents change, your siblings change, and life changes.
Mhm.
I know one of the best lessons I've got from my parents was don't count on things being the same. The more things change, they stay the same, but you are going to deal with change. And growing up, whether you were going from grade 2 to
Mhm.
grade 3, whether you had a new person in your world, a new neighbor, people, friends that you have are going to
Mhm.
move away, there seemed to be so much change that you either accept or involve into the person that tries to prevent it. Maybe don't get close to people because they're just going to go away.
Mhm.
You hear these different things. As a parent, it's something to navigate with your child, as well as understand that you probably have some of those concerns, biases, and fears of your own, but you don't necessarily want
Yeah.
to pass it on to your child.
Absolutely. So I think we've all, I'm certain, met people in life who really experience difficulties with change. They don't like anything to change. And change could
Mm-mm.
be, in a variety of reasons, a variety of areas. For example, from food. Like I know people that will only like to have certain things at breakfast, lunch, and dinner and don't like that to change. But like you said, change is a natural process.
Hmm.
And I think if we're so against change, we need to be introspective and we need to ask ourselves why and then pursue that line of thought. And for children, we just help them gently to understand that change happens. We can use nature, for example, right? The seasons. We're fortunate that we live in a country where we have 4 seasons. And so there's a natural change, a natural evolution in nature, and that reflects back to ourselves. For example, even with myself and my name, I had a discussion with each of my children separately. And I asked them, like, how do you feel about this? Like, I'm still going to do it. Because it has no bearing on them and their
Mm-hmm.
last names are different. But, we still had that discussion. We talked about the why. So it's it's almost setting an example. I think when we give ourselves permission as adults to do something different or to evolve, we help our children understand that they can also give themselves permission. And they might, and it might be a thing like they're going along in school and they're taking a course and they're set on becoming, I don't know, they want to become a chiropractor, for example, but then they're in that line and they're doing those studies and realize this is not for me. I want to go into
Hmm.
broadcasting. And so, our permission for ourselves allows them to give themselves permission to evolve and to change and to discover more. And then I think that's important and relevant.
I've always been, one of those people that really struggled in
Hmm.
change. Anything that changes, I would fear.
Hmm.
And I've came across so many obstacles that has happened, and I struggled with that at first. But
Mm.
at the end of the day, it was a good decision for me. Um,
Hmm.
be that as may, like I did sign language and I wanted to become an interpreter, and um, my eyes started to deteriorate, and a bunch of my academic advisors and professors didn't think I would graduate, but I knew I couldn't be an interpreter at that point because
Right.
my vision deteriorated. So I had to switch my careers, but I ended up graduating, which was amazing. But at the same time, I really struggled with the idea of changing my career paths. And, it took me a while to accept, okay, what is my plan B? What can I
Yes,
do? Obviously, broadcasting was a really good decision for me and I love it. But it is hard. It's really
it
hard to
is.
accept change. It does take time for people. And I can honestly say I've always struggled with that.
And I don't think there's anything unusual with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with loving change, and I don't think there's anything wrong with finding change challenging, right? And so that goes
Mhm.
back to the very beginning of our conversation when I said sometimes we feel change is thrust upon us. And in your case, it was your vision, but I think congratulations. That's such a wonderful thing to celebrate that you finished and you graduated
Yeah.
your course, because we still learn a lot when we complete something, even though we know that maybe our path needs to veer, right? You're going with
Mhm.
the flow, hence river. I like that. But
Yeah.
right, we're going with the flow, and life is like that. Even though some people might think that it's not and you've planned out everything, the reality is we can't plan for everything, and so you might be taken aback for a moment like you said, but then you find your new path. And
Mhm.
it sounds as though in finding that new path it might have taken a little bit of angst, some struggle, some challenges, but then it unfolded in such a beautiful way that it brought you to this new life, this new you, and that's so much to celebrate.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I
it
love
really
that.
is.
Yeah.
And be confident. Like you said, Lucia, you're
Yes.
at that point where the name change, it's all about
Mm.
what you feel the timing is. And Lucia,
It's very empowering.
how can people reach out to you,
Yeah.
keep in touch with you, Lucia?
So my website is in the process of being updated, but literally it's Lucia River Wild with an E. So, and then .com, and then all my social media will be the same. And that's it. You can find me there. I'd love like input and to keep this conversation going. And yeah, I'm excited as well to move on to YouTube. I'm hoping that my goal had been June 12th. Happy birthday, Miss Ramya. But
Mhm.
it looks like it'll be July. But just like social media under Lucia River Wild. And if I may just say thank you to everyone. It's really been a pleasure to be with you. And, you know, oh, it's kind of sad to say goodbye, but again, it's okay. It's all part of the process. And I really thank you for welcoming me into your day with your heart, your ears. And whether we cross paths again or not, I really want to leave you with the idea that change happens. And so you are allowed to change. You are allowed to discover more and more of who you are, and our children as well. You don't need permission from anyone but yourself. And even if that change is bumpy, I think allow yourself to know that that's okay. You don't need to be perfect, and take care and just trust the beautiful unfolding of your life.
Here, here.
Thank you
Good
so
luck.
much, Lucia.
Thank
Good luck going
you.
That
forward.
was
And I have
beautiful.
to say, as a person who, when we built the show, started bringing community and people to talk about different subjects, what I've enjoyed one of the most, Lucia, is watching how the show has impacted some people and helped them feel they need to facilitate some kind of change because they've got that confidence that you're talking about. And I think that's that little piece that you hope, as much as you guys have given to
Yes.
the listeners and us, that you're able to take something away from the show other than us saying, hey, thanks a lot for coming out, here's a few bucks, or appreciate your time. And
Yeah.
that there's that stuff that you've said, you know what, I did it on there, I can do it here. So good luck on YouTube and everywhere else.
Thank you.
Awesome. That was Lucia River Wild. Oh my God. I love that name. I love that name. It has a nice flow. It's beautiful. And she's also one of the OGs at AMI. So I love that.
It's really tremendous. And again, it's just amazing the different things we're going to hear from people as they do their last visits with us on the program. Something I haven't mentioned in a long time for those who have been listeners to the show for a while are community reporters. We had folks come on a couple of times a week, and they would share with us things that were happening in their communities. One of them was Nick D'Ambrosio, who left the show a few years back. Just things and timing couldn't work out. And we continued reporting from Montreal after he left, but Nick had left an indelible imprint on us. And he sent a message in. Please take a listen to Nick D'Ambrosio.
Hey, Kelly, it's Nick D'Ambrosio, old community reporter from Montreal. A couple of weeks back, you told me to go down memory lane with you about all the episodes we did together on the Kelly and Company show. So let's do that. Let's go back in time. Oh, that's a long time ago. I remember my first day at AMI. I wanted to quit on my very first day. I had screwed up the phone number of the service that I was giving out, and I remember I was mortified after that show. But right from there on out, I knew that AMI was a family. You guys rallied around me and gave me confidence to continue on, and I did. I had a little bit of an imposter syndrome at the beginning. I thought that I wasn't really the right person to be a spokesperson for the blind community, but at the end of the day, it all worked out. I learned quite a bit about services in my area, and I got to share it with all of my friends and the community in and around Montreal and outside and all across Canada, and I was very proud of that. Some of the memories that came to mind was me using Google and Alexa on the live show, which was risky, but it ended up working out really well. Other memories I remember is doing parodies for you, Kelly. I know you love my parodies. It was something that I always wanted to do, and it was fun, and that's what the Kelly and Company show was all about, having fun. I'm not the greatest singer in the world, but they were really awesome to do. Other things that kind of spring to mind would be my travels to TO when I finally got to meet everybody. That was fabulous. Traveling for the first time by myself to Toronto and then meeting everybody. That was a thrill that I'll always remember and cherish. And then there were the harder times, like the COVID report with Nick D'Ambrosio, when the community report was slim pickings, let's just say. It was tough to come up with stuff, but we all got through it, and I think it made us become even closer as a community because of it. There's one little story I'd like to share is when early on I was doing my community report and actually had the gumption to go to an event, which was a lot for me at the time. And I went to the grand opening of the CNIB, and I was having a cigarette outside, and I heard my name in the distance. And I'm like, I don't know anybody here. And it was Andy Frank. And he's like, what are you doing here, Nick? And I'm saying, well, I'm doing my community report. I'm doing the grand opening of the CNIB. And he's like, you'll be on in 5 minutes. Meet us downstairs. So you can imagine the nerves that I had back then, that I was going to be on the air. I was already kind of worried about going on air, but it all ended up being a fun time and a memorable time. So I'd like to thank everybody at AMI. I don't want to mention everybody's name because this is already long enough, and I'm gonna miss somebody, and I don't want to. I would like to thank everybody, and Kelly, hopefully we can work together again in the near future. And I want to wish you nothing but the best of luck. And it's like I've always said, it's never a goodbye. It's just a see you later. All the best to everyone. and we'll catch each other soon. Take care. Love you all.
Nick D'Ambrosio, one of our community reporters from the past here, sending us a message. And we remind you, we wrap up the show on June 27th. I'm hoping, Niz, we get more messages like that from people associated with the show, people out there who have enjoyed it. We really would love to hear from people.
It's so nice. Yeah. Like I remember Nick from my intern days. So just to hear the community reporters that I started with is insane to me. Like I don't know, like I feel like blushy a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though
well, it's a month of stories, right? We were looking forward. We talked to management and said we'd really like to have a month of reflecting on the live show era and all the great memories. So, Nick, again, thank you. You're an amazing individual. And again, talk about the journey, as Nick mentioned, for himself doing the show, not feeling he belonged, but what it got to for him and that personality and how that moved him forward to where people knew him, where he himself has settled into doing different things now that probably before when things all started, man, what do you want me for a reporter? I'm not going to do half of this stuff. It's absolutely beautiful. So as we wind up our financial chats with certified financial planner Ryan Shin, it's important that we reflect on how we need to keep our finances in check, why we should have professional advice, and the reasons why it's so important to share not only our facts, but our feelings with our advisor. Ryan, welcome back to the show. And the first thing a financial advisor needs to know is, why are you coming to them? What are some common reasons that someone might seek that professional advice, man?
Well, thank you so much, Cal, and I hope I can bring it with the energy and enthusiasm.
Oh, you will. I painted him into the corner, right?
You did. Oh my God! Why would someone go to a financial advisor? Well, I'll tell you. I mean, we all hit crossroads in life. Things come at us from different angles, whether we're thinking about, how can I save for the future? I want to buy a new house, or maybe I've just gotten married, or, maybe I just got an inheritance. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Did you put me in the will, Cal?
Sorry,
maybe...
that was the response.
I'm pretty sure your lawyer laughed too. Anyways,
sure.
Maybe it's just, you're trying to save for school, or you've got some large debt. There's multiple reasons we all seek financial advice, and it's important to know that, hey, there are people out there, there are informed folks out there who can help you make those decisions. But it's important. You just got to ask.
It's hard to navigate by yourself. So having a financial advisor, you don't think it's as important, but when you get into that position, you really need it. But your financial advisor needs to know what you care about so they can devise a plan that you'll be excited to follow. So what kinds of examples would this entail for the client?
Yeah, for sure, Nazreen. Yeah, absolutely. Your financial advisor needs to know about you as well as you need to know about them. And the reason I'm focusing around financial planning, financial advice, of course, this being our last show together, we want to make sure that we leave the impression for all of your listeners and all of your viewers that, hey, seeking advice is a two-way street. Your advisor needs to know who you are. You need to know who they are. And it's important to share some of those stories, whether it's, your parents never really talked about money and, everything was always too expensive, or, we can't do that because, someone gave you some advice around the fact that they invested money into a mutual fund and lost all that money. And oh my God, that's just the wrong thing to do. We all come with these preconceived notions, or maybe, you've just no one's ever really sat down and talked to you about budgeting and having any understanding around it. Sharing your personal information with an advisor really can help them get connected to you, but also they might share some information, some about them to help you connect with them. We've spent a number of years together, Kel. I don't know, how many shows it's been, but I can say, sharing advice around budgeting, using credit cards, whether we talked about RSPs or TFSAs or, even just saving for a child's education, all of these things, all of these shares are pieces that, we have that we need to make sure that our advisor is aware of so that, they can really connect and help point you in the right direction.
So, Ryan, if you believe that your advisor needs to know how you feel, not just what you have, get your hand out of my pocket. What do you mean by this? I mean, sharing seems to be very important on both aspects as the advisor and the client.
Yeah, I mean, an advisor needs to understand, what's your comfort level? What are you comfortable with? It's like you say, Cal. I mean, get your hand out of my pocket. I mean, it's not always about money, but it's, what's the flavor of ice cream cake does Nazreen likes? I mean, is it the cookie? What is it? The Oreo cookie, or is it the cookies, the cookie dough, or or are you just a plain vanilla kind of gal? Those are important pieces of information that helps build that connection. It really does. What are the things that you're afraid about? Also, what are the things that inspire you? Do you believe in social responsibility? Is it your preference to invest in global efforts that are helping clean up the world, or maybe you're afraid, you want to stay away from alcohol and tobacco investments because you just don't believe in that, or
Right.
maybe your religion is telling you we don't want to invest in anything that produces dividends or interest income. These are things that your advisor needs to know, and it's a little bit more about you than about what you have.
Yeah. Well,
You
sometimes
wouldn't even
people,
know, right? Like
yeah.
I wouldn't even have thought of half of these things, telling your advisor, I want to be safe. I just want to have some money to put away in a sock, to make sure the investments don't crash. That's as much as most of us, the average Joe, would think of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes people may be looking out for a new financial advisor. Why is sharing your previous experiences beneficial when meeting new advisors?
Well, I mean, I tell each and every one of my clients here at Sun Life, I tell each and every one of them, this is a relationship till death do us part. So, what's important to you needs to be important to the advisor. And the thing, and so there needs to be a connection. There needs to be an understanding between each party that this is something that, there's something tangible here. It's not just about, does this person like me? It's about, can we connect on a monetary level? Can we connect on a understanding level? Are they able to explain concepts to me that maybe are a little bit above my head, but are they able to explain those concepts to my level so that I can understand them? And I say that because, while I can have a conversation with each of you, well, you
Mhm.
know what? I could certainly turn around and have a conversation with someone else, and maybe you have to explain things a little bit differently. As an advisor, I'm very comfortable explaining using analogies, and I try to always pick an analogy relative to the person's interest, because I
Right.
find
Yes.
that we can find understanding in things that we know.
Right.
You
Yeah.
Relatability.
know, relatability. Like for Cal, maybe we'll talk about how many slices of cake versus how many dollars you put in. And I know, Cal, you celebrated my birthday and went, oh, even though we don't like that guy.
We're going to
I
get
love
ourselves
that.
a nice
Yeah.
chunk of, all right, Sara Lee cake, just something like
Yeah.
that, that little no-name brand.
I love that you brought this up because I feel like it's really important to find that connection with your financial advisor to understand it better. It helps you understand it better. Because I got to tell you, every time I go to the bank, I'm so confused, but I just nod and smile. Yes, I know what I'm doing. Um, but no, it's so important to have a clear understanding. It's your future. it's an important topic to talk about.
Do you nod and
Yeah.
smile out of like, I better seem like I know something here? Like, is
Yes.
there, do you trust?
For every situation.
Cause that's the whole thing. If you were kind of not sure, you don't trust the advisor, or if you say, they think the advisor thinks you're dumb, you know, oh, good, what can I get away with? Ryan, do you ever feel that way with people? Because, I mean, the
Listen.
reality is, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to expect you to. But is there that thought process that somehow people think, this Ryan's going to get his hands on my dough?
You guys are underscoring the importance of exactly what we're talking about here. Because, you know, you can go in and nod and smile and say, yep, because you're trying to reassure the person across the table that, you know, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. But that's the difference between a transaction and a relationship. So
Mhm.
when you come to someone like myself or other financial advisors, financial planners, whether it be at Sun Life, whether it be another institution, and they sit down and connect with you have a real connection. I mean, it's now up to the advisor to sit across from you and truly explain to you what it is that you're dealing with. What is it that you're doing? Whether you're talking about a registered disability savings plan or a registered retirement savings plan, or just simply what's going on in your bank account. I mean,
Mhm.
this is the difference between that transaction and a relationship. And as I just mentioned, you know, when I sit with each one of my clients, it's a relationship till death do us part. And we know that when we truly connect with the person who's going to provide advice, not just, you know, speaking points,
Mm-hmm.
then we are comfortable knowing that, you know, maybe I don't understand the whole concept, but I get the gist of what's going on, or I'm engaged in this process and I want to learn more. You know,
Mhm.
that's what it's all about.
Okay.
As
All
you
right.
said, Nazreen, this is your money. It's your future, and you
It's your
gotta
life.
gotta pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Ryan, in fairness, it is pretty important that clients share their comfort when it comes to taking that risk, not just with money, but overall in life.
Yeah, if you're a risk taker, you know, if you're someone, you know, like Kelly who likes to hang glide and rock climb and underwater scuba dive, you know, things of that nature. And I'm just teasing you, Kel. I know that that's not truly your personality, but you like a little bit of adventure, just
Risk,
like the
right? A
next person.
little.
Yeah, a little bit. But for the most part, does that risk relate into your comfort with money? Probably not. You're probably a little more like, well, you know what? I don't mind tucking it under the mattress just in case, a president of some other country decides to throw some tariffs around for any particular reason. You know that
Mhm.
these things happen, and it's all about, you know, sharing what type of person you are. What are the things that you find comfortable, you know, in your comfort zone? I'll be honest. I mean, every time I have a conversation with clients on an introduction level, the first thing I do is find out their risk tolerance. I want to know if we're going to have a conversation about investing, then how do we position that? Are you someone who likes to tuck money under the mattress, or, you know, are you someone who, you know what, I'm okay, I'm comfortable with the markets going ups and downs, and as long as I'm going to have a lot more at the end of the rainbow, then that's all we're caring about, you know,
Mhm.
there's everyone in between.
Another important aspect to disclose with your financial advisor is your income and your expenses. This may seem like an obvious detail to discuss, but sometimes it's overlooked pretty much. But why is it important?
Yeah, well, there you go. And so, Nazreen, I mean, you and I could get into a very serious conversation around income and expense, because if you think about it, we all, you know, whether we're collecting a pension, you know, or we have an employment income, or you know, what are those expenses that are taking away from that income? Will we have any money to put aside for savings? Will we have any money? Will we have enough money to pay that credit card bill? Will we have enough money to make that major purchase in the event of an emergency? These are all things that we have to think about that your financial advisor, financial planner
Mhm.
sits down and they want to know. They really need to understand what are the inflows and more importantly, what are the outflows. And you got to be serious about it. You have to really, lots of people say, "Oh, I only spend, $5 a week on dining out." And then you think and then you start to peel back that onion a bit and find out, every day you're stopping for that coffee on the way to work, or if
Yeah.
a coworker says, "Hey, let's go out for lunch today," that's 2 or 3 times a week, and then pizza Fridays or whatever. All of a sudden that $5 on dining out turned into $200 a month. Like so these are things that we need to really understand, so that we're not underestimating your expenses, but more specifically, properly stating them.
Or
Ryan.
or realizing that girl math isn't
Don't
isn't true,
worry.
guys.
I know all
Don't be
about
like
girl
me.
math.
Not just because you tap your card doesn't mean that it's free, okay? Just because
Wow.
your husband taps his card doesn't mean it's free. So
That's right.
the girl math
Yeah.
is real and we have to watch out for that.
And even if
And,
that
and
thing
it's
turns into an item, right? It doesn't mean it's free.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And how many pairs of
Ryan,
shoes are you supposed to have in your closet?
I have
More
too
than
many and it's not
uh,
good. It's
Ryan,
not
I'm
good.
going to use the term here. We've had great value out of these segments
Mhm.
with you over the years. We've so much appreciate, man. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, it's truly been a pleasure to share some time, share some knowledge, spend time with each and every one of your listeners and viewers every month. Kelly, Nazreen, thank you so much. AMI, it's been truly a pleasure to be part of the show. If I can leave everyone with one thing, one action item is just get started. If you've never had a savings plan, just get started. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how young you are, just start that process. Whether you reach out
Mhm.
to someone at Sun Life, whether you reach out to someone like myself, doesn't matter. Just get started.
Thank you. Thank you
Love
so
that.
much, Ryan, for everything, for the time you've spent with us and everything as you prepare and come to the show. Reach Ryan directly at Sun Life to talk more about financial planning. You can send an email to ryan.chin@sunlife.com, of course. And we'll learn more about financial literacy. Subscribe to the AMI original podcast, Eyes on Your Money with Ryan and Becky. Really appreciate it, folks. And any of the comments that you may want to make with us, just like Nick did, please send us an email. Any comments, they'll get passed on. You can do that at kellyco@ami.ca. You can call us at 1-866-509-4545. Reach out to me on Twitter at AMIKellyMac. Stop saying Twitter. You know that's that X place. Wow.
I do the same.
All the time. It's unbelievableness.
Yes. Jennie Bovard is a longtime contributor to AMI. You can catch her in the forthcoming AMI TV scripted comedy series, Pretty Blind. She's also been joining us monthly to discuss everything from low vision drama to fitness. Today, we're going to the fitness route. So, Jennie, how can a pair of Adidas shoes revolutionize sport for people in the Down syndrome community?
Hello, my friends. I'm so excited to chat with you all about this. You mentioned shoe collections earlier and how some of
Yes.
us might have too many. All of mine are running shoes, and I have too many.
Yeah.
But I want to say that I stumbled upon this wonderful video online where I learned all about this awesome project. But I really think the algorithms are working in this case because number one, it was a video about running. Number two, it was about making running and sport more inclusive. So immediately I was obviously hooked. I didn't know there was a need for this out there, but through this video and through the rabbit hole and the research that I dove into after seeing this awesome project, I learned that there is a need really for a shoe tailored for people living with Down syndrome. And I learned that a lot of folks living with Down syndrome, those who are involved in this project, have explained that many of them are born with genetic feet or foot differences. And that includes a pretty narrow heel and a wide toe and generally smaller feet. I have pretty small feet. So it can be tricky to find shoes. But added to that, a lot of people have expressed, and the loved ones of people with Down syndrome have explained that sometimes their pain tolerance can be lower, and the response to pain can be delayed or different as well to what maybe you or I might experience. So I learned all of these really interesting things and learned that really there is a need out there because of the unique experience of those people with Down syndrome who are looking for the right shoe fit. And it's so important when you want to get involved in sports, running, any kind of performance sport, you need to have the right gear. And what I heard from a lot of people in this project is, and their loved ones again, is that they're missing out on activities and the countless benefits that we all know go along with physical activity and participating in sport. I really only found my self-confidence through sport. I owe a lot to the community that I built out there in the sporting world. And so a lot of people were expressing that that's a big part of the need too. It's not just, physical, it's they want to participate. And obviously there's those mental and physical health benefits. So I would love to introduce to you a really incredible person named Chris Nikik. And I do not know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but I hope that I am, because he is a maverick of a human being. He's the first person with Down syndrome to complete an Ironman triathlon. He's done repeated marathons. And to tell you a little bit about an Ironman, it's a total of 226 kilometers combined in one race. It's swimming, it's biking, it's a full marathon run. And he's done all 6 major marathons around the world. Your London, your Boston.
Wow.
He's a motivational speaker. He's done it all, Kelly. Yeah, wow is right. And he's even sponsored by Adidas. But what was happening to Chris is he was doing all of these incredible things anyway. But he was coming away in a world of pain. He was in more suffering than most people would be after an Ironman. And part of that was because he didn't have the right footwear. His gear wasn't meeting his needs. So he and Adidas are working together to build a performance shoe to address all of that. And it's really incredible. What's also incredible, guys, is how do you think they're developing a shoe? Typically, I think they do what sells, what's going to sell, what's popular, what are, what's fashionable, right? But what Adidas and Chris have done is gathered people with lived experience, living with Down syndrome and their families, and said, what do you need? Adidas going to a community and saying, what do you need when developing a product?
I love that so much.
I love it so much too, Nazreen. It's like, that's moving society forward type stuff.
And by the people and organizations that can. When you look at a manufacturer and hearing problems that people are having, and I've heard this too, Jennie, with people who have an amputation and they don't need to buy a pair of shoes. They need to buy an individual shoe. And this is something that you think, this is a waste. What do you do? They can't give the other shoe to somebody unless they know somebody else in a similar position, if it's an amputated leg or portion of. And it's things like this when a company can say, you know what? This is worth looking at and doing something for, because it makes sense.
And it's empowering to just have those options, but to be part of the process along the way, right? To have the option of participating in whatever sport or recreation activity you want to participate in and not have to deal with a world of pain afterward, that actually meets their needs. And it's really incredible to watch a little bit about the trial and error process, folks in the community actually trying out the shoes and giving the feedback to the shoe designers. And it's really, it's really motivating to watch. And so,
and as you said, not something you would have ever thought of. And I understand it's not part of the Jennie Bovard world. It's a fascinating thing. But when you examine it as a runner, and have that relatability to these folks and what they're experimenting and saying, oh my gosh. And again, you know, if it's a right thing to do, you shouldn't have to talk people into it, but we do need to understand the process, as it sounds like you did from the videos, which sounds so valuable.
And I think what's also exciting is, you know, it's 5.4 million people worldwide, approximately, that live with Down syndrome. I think about 45,000 Canadians, if I remember correctly, and that's a lot of people. And so I think you hit the nail on the head, that it speaks to, I don't know so many things about the people living around me. And I think it's so important that, you know, not only as an individual, but as business people and people with the power to make these changes, like, let's look around and pay attention to what is going on with the people around us. And Adidas, you know, and the community, the response has been incredible. You know, the people at Adidas themselves think that this is going to be, they think it's going to be huge. And
Yes.
the global CEO, I'll never forget, he said something in the video to the effect of, like, you know, there are many needs around the world of many groups, and we can care for that. And that this is just the start. And the real goal is equal access to sports for everyone. And who can argue? You can't argue with that. And the comment sections, the comments from people who are connected to the participants in this project who have Down syndrome, all of their loved ones and support systems are coming out of the woodwork and saying, like, thank you for including our kids, because this is going to give them the option to participate. The shoe is coming in 2026. They're still working on it. But I think this is just so exciting for me.
Yeah. It's fascinating too when companies no longer, we always used to hear, especially accessible softwares, accessible equipment, accessible clothing, whatever it might be. We always heard about the cost, and that's well, there's such a small community that needs this. And now, whether it's deemed a smaller community, not the mainstream, companies are starting to say, yeah, but it would cost us barely anything added to our cost to do this. So, Jennie, fantastic.
It's good for business too. I always say,
wow,
people out here with disabilities want to spend our money as well. And if you include us and you put accessibility at the top of your you know, design plans and your products, you're going to appeal to more people.
You'll get our market. Such an untapped resource that people have to understand. Jennie, we've appreciated you coming on the show since we revamped Kelly and Company and being a part of it since October.
Kelly, I can't believe this is the final time I get to join you and Nazreen. And I just would like to say that, you know, thank you to the entire Kelly and Company team, and the beautiful audience, of course, for allowing me to come along this journey with you, discussing topics and stories that are always engaging, sometimes a little bit out of left field. In my case, I'll admit that, but it's always so relatable and informative. And whatever our journey holds next, whatever all of your paths have next for you, I know that you're all going to shine on, and I look forward to better keep in touch, all of you. You better.
Absolutely, we will. Of course we will. Thank you so much again, Jennie. That was Jennie Bovard, a longtime contributor to AMI. And again, you can catch her in the forthcoming AMI TV scripted comedy series, Pretty Blind. So make sure to check that out.
Well, and that's the amazing thing. Everybody, you know, as we talk to everyone and the great things going forward for them, it's just so wonderful. And again, one of the things you miss the most is being able to check in on everyone, for goodness sakes, like we've been able to do monthly, weekly, or whatever it might be. We have a show tomorrow, and Nazreen and I will be back for it. On the next show, what is burlesque and how is one being made accessible for blind and low vision audiences? We'll learn about that with Christine Malik. Plus, don't miss our weekly foodie chat with Mary Mamalidi. As we leave you, a happy birthday to our producer, Ramya Muthan. Take a listen.
Hey, I heard it's Ramya's birthday, so now we're gonna sing this song, and I know that it's a little quirky, but don't worry, Ramya. Oh yeah, it's your freaking birthday, Ramya. Wait, what? So Kelly and Nisreen have gotta do what you say forever. And hey, now guess what? We all owe you gifts. And anyone that says no is full of it. So happy freaking birthday, Ramya. Ramya. It's your freaking birthday, Ramya. Wait, what? So Kelly and Nisreen have gotta do what you say forever.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.